He was a millionaire who had everything money could buy: luxury cars, sprawling mansions, and a life most people only dream of. But there was one thing he didn't have: companionship. For 7 long years, he dined alone every evening, the clinking of his silverware echoing in an empty dining room. People whispered about him, calling him cold, unreachable, even lonely beyond repair. Yet behind the blindfold of wealth and darkness, he carried a secret pain no fortune could heal. Across town, the maid's daughter lived a life of simplicity, filled with laughter, small dreams, and an unshakable curiosity about the world. She had never imagined that one day her courage would collide with a world so far removed from hers. One ordinary day, an unexpected opportunity would bring her into the millionaire's quiet, shadowed life. And what happened next was something no one could have predicted, something that would change the course of both their lives forever. Little did anyone know, the quietest act of bravery from someone the world overlooked would shatter the millionaire's 7-year-long solitude. But what exactly did she do that no one else could? That moment, that impossible act, would leave him stunned. And it's a story you won't want to miss. The millionaire, known to the world as Mr. Alcott, had once been a man full of life, laughter, and ambition. But a sudden accident had taken his sight, and with it, a part of his spirit. Friends drifted away, business associates grew distant, and even family stopped visiting, as if his blindness had made him untouchable. Every night, his grand dining hall felt colder than the last, his meals a ritual of solitude. People assumed he had everything, yet he carried a loneliness so heavy it could fill the grandest room in his mansion. Meanwhile, the maid's daughter Lila had grown up in the same house, quietly observing the man she had only seen in passing. She knew the mansion's corridors, the hidden corners where shadows lingered, and even the faint sounds that told a story about Mr. Alcott's life. Unlike others who pitied or ignored him, Lila felt a strange pull, a curiosity mixed with compassion. She wondered what it would take to break through the walls he had built around himself, walls no one had ever dared to challenge. And then came the evening that changed everything. A small misstep, a simple gesture, yet one that would set off a chain of events neither of them could have imagined. But what exactly happened that night, and how would it ripple through their lives? The answers were closer than anyone suspected, waiting in the shadows of the mansion that night. The air in the mansion felt heavier than usual, almost as if it knew something was about to change. Mr. Alcott sat at the dining table, the familiar silence pressing in on him like an old friend who had overstayed its welcome. Every sound, the faint ticking of the grandfather clock, the rustle of curtains, even the distant footsteps of the maid in the kitchen seemed amplified. He had grown used to this rhythm, the predictable patterns of a life lived alone. Yet tonight something felt different, like the universe itself was holding its breath. Lila, carrying a tray of food, hesitated at the doorway. She had always admired the way he carried himself despite his blindness, the quiet strength hidden beneath the billionaire exterior. Yet fear and respect warred inside her. What if she overstepped? What if her attempt to reach him failed? And yet, she couldn't ignore the pull. The feeling that this was her moment to do something extraordinary. Meanwhile, the mansion staff whispered among themselves. Some thought Lila was foolish, others worried she might upset the delicate balance of the household. Unseen by both, Mr. Alcott sensed a presence different from the usual, someone who approached with courage, not pity. The question lingered, twisting tighter with every step she took toward him. Could she be the one to pierce the walls he had built over 7 long years? And if she did, what would that mean for them both? Lila's hands trembled slightly as she placed the tray on the table. The soft clatter of dishes breaking the quiet like a spark in still air. Mr. Alcott, sensing her presence, tilted his head, listening more closely than he had in years. His instincts, honed through blindness and years of solitude, told him this was no ordinary visit. There was a hesitation in her step, a nervous energy that was impossible to ignore. For the first time in 7 years, someone had entered his space not with pity, but with intent, a daring, almost reckless intent that made his heart race in ways he hadn't felt in a long time. Lila swallowed hard, her mind racing. She had rehearsed this moment countless times, yet nothing could prepare her for the weight of his gaze, even if unseen. The air between them thickened, every second stretching longer, heavier. She could feel his awareness like a living thing, testing her, probing, daring her to make a move. Outside the dining room, shadows seemed to gather, the faint murmur of the mansion staff fading into insignificance. This was a private world, suspended in anticipation, where a single act could shatter the rhythm of 7 lonely years. And then, in a heartbeat, everything hung on her next choice. An impossible moment that could either break the silence forever or retreat into darkness once more. Just as Lila steadied herself, ready to speak, a sudden noise echoed from the hallway, a sharp, unexpected clatter that made both of them startle. Mr. Alcott's head turned instinctively, his senses on high alert. The sound wasn't unusual for a mansion that large, but tonight, it felt deliberate, almost like a warning. Lila froze, unsure whether to investigate or stay put. Something about the timing didn't sit right, and in that instant, the carefully built tension in the room thickened. Then came another surprise. Mr. Alcott's voice, quiet but laced with authority, broke the silence. "You're not the only one who's been trying to reach me," he said, his tone carrying a weight that made Leela's heart skip. He wasn't just lonely. Someone else had been attempting to manipulate, intrude, or perhaps even deceive him. And this revelation cast a shadow over her courage. Lila realized the stakes were higher than she had imagined. This wasn't just about breaking through years of solitude. There were unseen forces, motives unknown, and dangers she hadn't anticipated. Her pulse quickened as she sensed the unspoken tension between them. Every step, every word, every pause could tip the fragile balance. The mansion, once merely a backdrop, now felt like a labyrinth of secrets, and the simple act she had planned could unleash far more than she had ever imagined. The night was far from over, and the impossible moment was closer than ever, but the consequences were still shrouded in uncertainty. Leela took a deep breath, her hands still trembling, and finally spoke. Her voice, soft but steady, carried through the dining hall. She didn't offer pity or excuses, she offered connection, a genuine human presence that Mr. Alcott hadn't felt in years. For the first time in 7 long years, someone truly saw him, not the millionaire, not the blind man, but the person behind the wealth and the darkness. He listened, his senses absorbing every inflection, every pause. The loneliness that had weighed on him for so long began to crack, and for a moment, the mansion felt less like a prison and more like a place where something real could grow. Then, as if sensing the shift, a small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth, a smile he hadn't felt in years. Lila's courage, her willingness to step into his world without fear, had done what no one else could. She had reached him, but just as relief washed over them both, the unexpected twist hit. From the shadows, a soft voice spoke, a voice neither of them recognized, yet it held a familiar warmth. "I see you've finally met her," it said. Mr. Alcott froze. Lila's eyes widened. The room, once filled with tentative hope, now pulsed with a new, startling mystery. Someone else had been waiting, watching, and the story was far from over. The voice belonged to Mr. Alcott's estranged sister, a woman he hadn't seen or spoken to in over a decade. She had been quietly observing from the shadows, waiting for someone worthy of bridging the gap he had built around himself. Lila's courage had not only reached Mr. Alcott, but had also opened a door to family he had long thought lost. In that moment, the mansion felt alive again, filled with warmth, laughter, and the promise of new beginnings. Mr. Alcott reached out, guided by trust and instinct, and took Leela's hand. The connection was more than physical, it was the spark of human compassion and bravery that had been missing from his life. His sister stepped forward, her presence a gentle reminder that love and family could still find their way, even after years of silence and distance. As the three of them stood together in the dining hall, the loneliness that had defined 7 years finally began to dissolve. Mr. Alcott realized that true wealth wasn't measured in money, but in courage, kindness, and the bonds we form with others. Leela's daring act had changed everything, not just for him, but for everyone willing to see beyond appearances. And though life would continue to bring challenges, this night proved that even the impossible could be possible when hearts were brave enough to reach out.